Hey, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. Today, we're going to finish the Jock Scott that we started last week. As you will have noticed, today's weekend live stream is actually on a weekend. It's on a Sunday. So I was able to change my work schedule, and hopefully this change will stay permanent, and I'll be able to have Sundays off. We shall see. But so for now, weekend live streams will be on Sundays. Um, I wasn't sure about what time would be best. I know a lot of people like to go to church, and so I picked 3 o'clock in the afternoon to accommodate the people who on the West Coast who go to church. Um, but I realized that a lot of my filming is actually reliant on natural sunlight from the window over here, so uh, the sun will be going down right about the end of the stream, especially here on the East Coast. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of quality we get just using the two lamps that I have and whatever remaining sunlight comes through. But it's all an experiment. So anyway, I may have to change the time of the stream depending on how much sunlight we can get and how it looks without too much sun coming in. But we'll see. But anyway, let's get to tie-in and we can chat while we go. But as always, if you enjoy what you see here and you want to see more of my work, you can check out my Instagram. It's at justwondering.brad. And if you want to purchase any of the flies that you see me tie on stream, there are a few left. I think there's about 10 flies left after the holidays. So you can go to my Etsy shop. It's Studio1213. And I appreciate all your support. So yeah, let's get to tying. Just adjust the camera. Oop. Dark background. Check. Here we go. And focus. Centered. Focus. There we go. So yeah, so last week we worked on the body of this fly. This week, and I'm tying from Price Tannet. And as you see, just per my normal, I switched to black thread for doing the head. Black thread just helps, hide the white thread if I miss a spot. With the head cement, we're just going to lay down a nice base of thread here. Of course, flat. Now we do want to lay down a fair bit of bulk because what happens is, and I say this a lot, but what happens is the stem of the throat actually creates a bump, and in order for the wing to lie as close to the body as we can get it, we have to overcome this bump. And there are two ways to do that. You can either, curve the wing up and over, or you can build up a little bit of extra thread and just make it so it's flush. And I prefer to build up just a little extra thread. I'm not going for the perfectly tiny heads in my salmon flies like a lot of people folks do. I am of the opinion that the head is an important visual part of the fly as well as practical part of the fly. Anecdotally, the old timers when they were fishing, if they broke off or if the gut eye became worn so that they couldn't use it anymore, or if they were afraid to use it, because it had started to, fray, then if the fly had a big enough head, you could actually tie the line behind the head and and continue to fish the fly. Um, I have not personally found anything but secondhand accounts of that, so I have no idea if that was actually done in practice, but makes sense. Seems logical. Definitely seems practical. So I never shy away from having a larger head on a fly. Um, it's a part of the fly. It's often specified in the uh, recipe. Um, so you know, having a larger head on a fly is not such a big deal. Now the underwing in price Tannant is white tipped turkey. Um, One of my favorite sources of white tipped turkey are these pre-tail flats that you can get, um, and they are just kind of perfect for white tip. They don't because the thing about for example, white tip turkey is that you have like this sweet spot, and you can see here on these feathers that I've already used the sweet spot. Um, so this chunk here that's missing would have been like the sweet spot for the thickness of the bar itself. Um, Obviously, I've used it, and now you can see if I were to put like a reasonable length underwing on, it'd have way too much white tip for my taste. Um, some people may disagree, but I prefer kind of a slimmer white tip, just because I think proportionally it lines up better with like the body segments and that sort of thing. Um, so that's why I really like these pre-tail flats. Also, these pre-tail flats are a little bit finer. They're a little bit easier to tie in, and they give add a little bit less bulk to the fly. And I will confess that I have actually done quite a bit of material prep uh, today. The wing on a Jock Scott is fairly complicated, so I've already married the wing together. I've picked out all my sides and my topping. Um, it just makes it a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. And the other nice thing about these pre-tail flats, I might add, is that they are um, two-sided, so you can actually use a single feather and just cut two slips, one from each side, and put them back to back, and that's your underwing. It's really convenient. So you get these um, slips, and I'm going to give them a little bit of shape, just because I want them to taper into the wing a little bit better. So you can see the tips here are pretty square. I'm just going to preen them a little bit just so the tips are not quite so square. So all I did was push the top fibers this way and pull the bottom fibers this way, just by giving them a little bit of a twist. So I'm just pinching here and twisting with my fingers, and then that. And then I did that for both sides, so then I can just put them back to back. And these go on just like a regular wing. They are an underwing, so you want them to be a little bit short. But just like any other wing, um, based on slips, you want to compress right at that tying point. So what I'm doing is I'm lifting the butts up, which is compressing the wing right at that where the thread is. Then just a little bit of light pressure, another soft loop. And I'm just using the weight of the bobbin to compress that. There we go. It's all about learning the direction in which things compress, especially for wings. So one might have gotten a little bit out of alignment here. Oh no, they're fine. Just got a weird little thing. The other thing I like about these flats is because the fibers are so soft, you can kind of just push them around, make them lay pretty close like that. Yeah, they're very nice to work with. I'm going to secure my underwing first with a little bit of wax thread. So again, just using Bill Bailey's cobbler's wax, Kelson's formula. I believe it's Kelson's formula. His head cement is for sure. But everything, especially when working on the wing, you want to just make sure that every preceding step is secured. Somehow managed to frame my thread a little bit. A little sharp scissors, I guess. Butts. Like I said, I'm not too worried about adding bulk at the head of my flies. Just ain't bothered by it. Then, like I said, also pre-married my wings. A little bit of material prep today. Yeah, so these just go right on top. And what I like to do is I like to hold them from the top side. As you can see, it kind of causes the wings to tent out a little bit, and that just allows me to pop them right down on top. The underwing. Nice tall wing, so I'm going to pinch it here. A little bit of saliva just to soften up, especially the golden pheasant. So that's always a little bit of a stiffer fiber to work with. And then that's just the same thing where I'm going to soft loop and then using the weight of the bobbin and gently lifting up on the butts, compressing in that tie-in spot. And, you know, your wing might look like a mess at this point with just one wrap of thread. That's okay. You can always preen it out later. So just want to make sure your thread wraps end up right where you want them to. Okay. sec. Got a little bit of a hang or rough spot there. I always keep one of these like pedicure pumice stones. That just helps smooth out rough places on my fingers. It's one of the reasons why I don't feel the need to wear gloves when doing silks. It's because you can just kind of smooth out your fingers and they're fine. Um, and I know people wear gloves while doing silk work because of the oils on their fingers. But if you just wash your hands prior to doing silks, that work actually works just fine as well. So, place this pinch soft loop. Okay. So like I said, it looks a little bit of a mess, but we'll just kind of brush everything out. It'll look great. You always want to. The key is to slowly increase the pressure at the tying point. So like so the initial kind of compression is supplied by the weight of the bobbin alone, and then you can slowly add tighter and tighter wraps. As always, wax, a little bit of wax. I'm just going to preen out the wing and shape it just a little bit. Just slowly go one wrap at a time until we can trim. Then you always trim at an angle so that you get a good taper. And you also trim in small bunches. You never try and trim all the butts at once because that's a recipe to have your wing shift right in the middle of that trim. And we just want these butts to stay right at the top. See, this is one more reason why I don't like golden pheasant is it won't stay married to other things very well. It's okay. We're gonna do something a little bit dangerous because I realize I've been wrapping almost right on top of the throat. There we go. Right. And the goal is to create layers. So as you can see, Here you can still see the underwing underneath, and then you can see like the peacock. So the peacock's tied in short. So the next layer on top will be just a little bit shorter than this. And it's also the reason why on a jointed fly like this, I tend to tie the jungle cock eyes a little bit short, because I want to create those layers and so that you can see everything, a little bit of everything. I'm just going to shape the wing a little bit while I'm sitting here. There we go. Wax my thread, bind down the rest of these butt ends, and you'll notice I've left these buttons actually fairly a little bit long. All right. Now the next is teal and summer duck. Summer duck always refers to, well, in our current interpretation, summer duck always refers to barred wood duck. And I believe I'm actually using Gadwell for teal. And similar barring, a little bit slightly different. I just happen to like it because I think it's a little bit more of a striking barring pattern. It's a little bit darker. It's also what I have large slabs of, so use what you got. And we're going to do this one side and then the other. So you won't be able to see too much on the first side because obviously it's the side towards me. But I'm going to tie in everything. I'm going to tie in the sides, the jungle cock, and the cheeks, which are chatterer, or I'm going to use kingfisher. I'm going to tie in all of that all at once, and then I'm going to reverse my thread. I'm going to tie in everything on the other side and all at once as well. And this is a common technique that I use because reversing your thread allows the duck especially to lie flat against the fly. And what's happening is when you're wrapping thread, you're not only exerting a compressional force, so a force into the center. Sorry, I've got wax in this hand, but you're not only exerting a compressional force towards the hook shank, but you're also like exerting a rotational force depending on which direction you're wrapping your thread. And so by reversing your thread, you actually exert an equal rotational force on each set of things that you tie in. So as I tie in, this teal and wood duck side, tie this in nice and long. So in terms of the layering here, the teal and wood duck side is the longest thing. It goes back almost to the butt. So as I wrap, right, I'm exerting not only a compressional force in towards the hook shank, but I'm also rotating or trying to push the material around the shank in the direction which I'm, winding my thread. There we go. The challenge with that though is if I'm tying something on the opposite side, that rotational force is actually pushing it downwards instead of upwards. And so that's why if you're tying, a fly and you tie something in on the side away from you, oftentimes it doesn't lay the same way on the fly. And so in order to counteract that, you can reverse your thread, and then that will balance those rotational forces. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to tie in the peacock curl on one side as if it were, say, a horn. This may take a little bit of trial and error here. I don't have great long peacock curl. And it's not gonna, like I said, I don't have long enough peacock curl for a 5/0 hook, so that's just gonna be, it is what it is. Let me see. Turn to the jungle cockeyes. And then now, of course, I'm using Eurasian Kingfisher, like I said. It's a great substitute from my understanding. And of course, my understanding may be off, but from my understanding, where the Eurasian Kingfisher is found, it occurs in high enough numbers that it's considered a nuisance. So, you're not using, you're not encouraging the exploitation of an endangered species. That's, really important these days. So, having done that, just gonna trim this. Up. And every progressive layer that I put and tie on. So starting with the wing, and now the sides and the other accoutrement. I trim all those butt ends a little bit shorter as I go, and that's how I get a nicely tapered head. Just gonna wax a little short bit just to give me enough to cover a couple lines here. Don't want to add too much thread bulk, so I'm just gonna do a couple there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide the thread between the blind eye of the hook and the gut eye. Now I'm gonna reverse my thread, take a couple lines back to tie-in spot. Now I'm tying with the thread going in the opposite direction of my normal. So I'm winding it back towards me. And like I said, that's a really handy trick for getting things, really soft fibered things, and things which have for which the cross section matters, like hurls. It's a really nice trick for getting those to lay flat. Yeah, the teal from this side of the feather was a little bit wispy, or I should say the gadwall. So it's a little bit wispy. So a few bars thick. So essentially, just lining it up here. soft loop. Maybe the teal slid up a little bit. So, there we go. And again, because I'm winding in the in this direction, the rotational forces being exerted on this set of teal and wood duck being tied in are the same as if they were as the ones exerted on the other side. Again, I'm going to tie in pearl. And that'll end up being covered by the bronze mallard, so it'll look a little bit neater in the final fly. And as always, when I tie on a cheek or even like a jungle cockeye, I'm still trying to catch a little bit of that extra kind of fuzz that you would normally trim away at the base. Catch a little bit of that under the thread, and that just helps it lay flat on the fly. All right, so having done that, I'm just going to trim everything up. Now I could have laid on bronze mallard, so like individual bronze mallard strips at the top of each wing. My preference is, whenever possible, to tie on bronze mallard as a roof or a shell. So all at once. I think. Oops, feathers in the wrong bags. I think that looks better. It is a harder method to do, I think. It is harder to get correct. It is easier to get. Oh, that's not the right saying easy either. It's harder to get it in place, but I think the results are better. So, now the fly does look a little bit of a mess in the camera, and that's normal. As you know, once the fly is tied, you can go back with your bodkin, or even just your fingers, preen everything back into shape. The important thing is everything is tied in properly, which really kind of sets the fly essentially. All right, so we'll wax our thread as normal, and we'll put the thread back in its normal rotation and finish out the rest of the fly. So we're almost there. Swan feathers. Oh, so swan feather. So, where did I get these? It's been years. I think I got them from John at feathersmc.com. I don't think he sells them anymore. I don't think he ever sold them in the first place, actually. I think these were an experiment. And they turned out really well, but I don't think he ever actually ended up producing them. I think the best bet would be to find somebody who is a duck hunter or a goose hunter because again, there's a species of swan that is, or if you weren't here for the last uh, stream, there's a species of swan here in the United States that's considered invasive, and they can be hunted during waterfowl season. They don't count towards your bag limit. All right. So you know, that's and as I said before, that's my favorite toucan substitute when dyed yellow. Um, yeah, I would. So what I would do is I would ask John if he has any left, and if he doesn't, man, I don't know where you'd get it, but let me see here. Looking for bronze mallard. Bronze mallard, like white tip turkey, of course, is that there's a real sweet spot for the part of the feather that is actually usable. So we're just gonna give everything a little bit of a preen before putting the bronze mallard roof on, since of course that'll be extra disruptive. Might not have quite the right feathers here. Well, if I can make that work. Frustrating thing about, for example, not to pick on Hairline too much, but Hairline does this a lot. They claim to sell you pairs, and then when you open the package, you have like 8 rights and 6 lefts. I don't feel too bad about picking on Hairline. They're a big enough company; they can take it. So, to create um, the roof, I'm going to take 2 bronze mallard slips, one right, one left, put them top to top, like this. So, and it's just like doing a wing on like a spay fly. You want to create. So basically, what it is, I did top to top, or you can even just go back to back, right? And then you just kind of preen them so that they fold over. And essentially, what happens is they kind of pseudo marry along that top edge. Um, and this is really why it's important to have pairs of bronze mallard, because they have to balance each other. So you do that, and then that kind of just fits like that. And you should always tie. Sorry, this slipped. Um, I like to tie the bronze mallard in on the top of the hook. Um, And this is also why it's really important to have like the gray area of the bronze mallard. Um, that gray area is what's you can kind of think of it as like it's the soft part. It's where it's like good to tie in. Yeah. All right. So this. Hang on. Reset. Um, that the soft gray part on the mallard, bronze mallard strip is actually what you it compresses well without losing, without unmarrying itself. I guess is the best way to describe it. So the actual like bronze part of bronze mallard doesn't marry very well to itself or anything. And it's really the gray bit that allows for these slips to maintain their integrity while you tie them in. So again, back slips. Clean them. It's a little bit better. And I'm just going to split it just a little bit so that it doesn't, when I tie it in, it doesn't get folded. Just going to push it so that they're right at the top of the wing. Nope, that was not. That was not very clever. Salvage this. a lot of um, a lot of classic Linux salmon fly tying is just pushing the materials around until you get it right. There's no tricks to it. It's all brute force. I think the problem with these particular slips is that they're no longer from that sweet spot. You can kind of see how they want to try and curve too much. And they don't when you preen them downwards. You don't really want to hold this shape. So let me pick a few better ones. Problem is, I'm running out of bronze mallard. Or I'm running out of good bronze mallard. Question is, do these match in color? They do. Well, sort of. Now, if you were tying kind of more of a antique style or antique looking fly, um, this curvature that we have here going here is illustrated, but if you actually look at like examples of flies from the time, um, a lot of their wings are just straight. Uh, and that and it's thought that a lot of the illustrations gain their particular uh, curvatures because the authors were illustrating um, fished flies or flies that had already been, fished, and so that's why you see um, crest tails that are, stick out in all manner of direction. There we go. There we go. That's better. It's definitely nicer. Yeah, so using that softer bronze mallard really helped because basically what I was trying to do with the other ones is they were too stiff. So if you take from the bronze mallard, so here's one of the feathers I took. So if you're taking from right here, like this section right here, you can see all this gray bit. Like I said, that's the soft bit that ends up um, uh, being able to make this curve around the wing. If you take from the tip up here, that the bronze part, even though you want the bronze color, you don't want too much of it because that's not, it doesn't marry to itself very well, and it also won't hold its integrity while making this reverse curve. So, tip: if you can't get your bronze mallard to follow the curve, use use a bit of bronze mallard with a little less bronze. All right, so now we just have the crest, and I have what I think is a good crest. That should be nice. Let's see. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to just flatten the stem right at the tying point, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of a bend or a kink, so you can see there. And that just helps it get it, so I'm not trying to force it up and over. So, it's a little bit high. I'm not sure I like that. You know what? Totally forgot to trim the bronze mallard. Hang on. Couple turns. This. Good enough. Okay. And if you want your, here's a little trick. If you want your topping to lay a little bit flatter, you can just grab the butt end, and you can just give it a little bit of a pull, um, and that. Just help me a little more. Not quite. I think I could probably shorten this by a little bit too. Getting the proportions on these flies is just a little bit of trial and error, of course. Um, these are. I always say this. I have this disclaimer on my Etsy shop because, and it's true, because these are natural materials. So they're not only are they going to behave differently almost every time you try to tie a fly, but they're also going to change. Wings will shift and settle over time. In a frame, uh, feathers, especially crest feathers, will change or lose their curvature. So, natural materials, it's just something that happens. So there we go. Okay. Now I just need the horns. Now, in theory, in order to get the best set for the horns, you probably should, you know, reverse your thread here as well. Um, I am not going to do that because because what I find is that if you tie in single horn and then you tie in on the side away from you, and then it's easier to match the horn on the near side or the side close to you. So I'm just going to match the angle, length. Maybe. That's not with that one. That's a little bit. Too much. There we go. Let's see. Bodkin. Too much. Don't like that. Hang on. Wait one. So my device is falling apart. Okay. Didn't like the set on that because I think the farm one's set too low in the wing. Um, want to set it just a little bit higher up. It's about there. That should make things a little bit easier on the near side as well. Yeah. So there we go. That's a nice set. That's a good good set for. So just trim these things off. So. Crest. And of course, wax our thread, finish off the head, and give it a coat of cement. So yeah, I've never tied a Jock Scott before. I have to admit, Jock Scott was probably one of the first classic Atlantic salmon flies I was exposed to. It kind of remained my platonic ideal of a classic salmon fly for a long time, until I kind of realized just how often it's tied, and that there are patterns out there that are just as beautiful but way less known. And so I kind of lost interest in it, which is why I've never tied one. But it is, a beautiful fly. Obviously, it's very well known. It's probably one of the most well known, if the most well known salmon fly, classic salmon fly. In my opinion, it's you know it's a little bit complicated for what you get. And I've often said this about classic Atlantic salmon flies. One of the challenges with these classic patterns is that they oftentimes are tied, especially in a modern style, with so much stuff on them. It's hard not to make them feel really kind of heavy and overtied, overloaded. So, there's that. But, such as it is, these are very complicated patterns. They feature a lot of materials. So, it's just how they are. All right. So what I'll do, and unusually for this, just because I did a terrible job at finishing off that head, I'm actually going to give this a coat of head cement. Also because saved us a little bit of time by pre-marrying the wings. Let me know if you want to watch me marry wings. Great. To be honest, I kind of feel like marrying wings is one of the less interesting things that occurs on stream. So, again, I'm using Bill Bailey's Kelson formula head cement. I'm not going to give it a complete coat. I'm just going to give it enough of a coat to hide the crime, so to speak. Okay. And we're just going to pick out a few of the things that didn't quite want them. All right. So this is the side that I see, and this is what it looks like for me. Um, all right, so that's the Jock Scott complete. Thanks for hanging out. Time flies. Uh, so, like I said at the beginning, hopefully the schedule will stay. I'm not 100% certain. Um, focus. Um, we'll see. Uh, um, but yeah, weekend stream is now back on the weekend. Um, let me know if three o'clock in the afternoon works for you. Like I said, I was trying to accommodate people on the West Coast, but we're kind of losing light, so we're kind of stuck using this artificial light, which is not my ideal. Um, but it is what we have to work with. So yeah, and as always, feel free to comment any questions on the videos, and yeah, subscribe if you want to know when I go live next. As always, if you enjoy what you see and want to see more of my work, check out the Instagram, justwondering.brad. And if you want to support the stream or purchase any of these flies that you see me tie on camera, you can check out the Etsy shop, Studio1213 on Etsy. Yeah, with that, I'll see you next week. I think, yeah, see you next week. One of these weekends, I'm gonna be taking a little bit of a trip, so won't have a stream then. But next weekend, we'll have a stream. Got to figure out what I'm gonna tie next. So anyway, thanks for hanging out, and hope your week goes well, and that you're safe and healthy. And I'll see you next time.